Today, we're looking at a contradiction in the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses. On the surface, on their website, the message sounds beautiful. Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. But when you compare the public face with the inside instructions, you'll notice something very different. And that's what we're going to do next. I went in and I just typed in apostates, and this is what comes up. But first of all, we're going to take a look at the JW.org article, the double face, the double standard, what they're trying to put out to the public as who they are. But we're going to show you the other side, the flip side to this whole thing. Okay, well, here we are. We're in my Twitter account, and this is where we get a lot of our information. Jerome, he's a very respected ExJW whistleblower and blogger, what you hear whispered preach from the housetops. So he posted this the other day, and it got me thinking, what does it mean to love your enemies? And he said, how can Jehovah's Witnesses hate apostates and yet claim to love their enemies? Very good question, Jerome. So I went into the website, and sure enough, when you go in here, there's a section, and I'll just show you how to get there. You go, this is the website. You just go to see more. They posted this as one of their main topics, their main website topics. What does it mean to love your enemies? And so we go to that article, and this is what they're broadcasting to the public. This is what they're trying to tell governments in Norway, people all over the world. They're trying to tell them what a good religion we are. We love our enemies. And I'm gonna let them do a little speaking here. So let's see what they say.
Luke 6:27.
We'll start it right at the beginning.
To love your enemies. The Bible's answer. In his famous Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, "Love your enemies." Matthew 5:44 and Luke 6:27 and 35. His words mean that we should act lovingly toward those who hate us or treat us unjustly. Jesus demonstrated love for his enemies by forgiving those who mistreated him. His teachings about loving our enemies harmonize with what is stated in the Hebrew Scriptures, commonly called the Old Testament. Continue to love your enemies and to pray for those who persecute you. Matthew 5:43 and 44. Why love your enemies? God sets the example.
Okay, so we're just going to hold off there. So they get into a lot of the article here. Why love your enemies? What are some ways to love your enemies? Do good to those hating you. Bless those cursing you. Pray for those insulting you. Wait a minute. Pray for those insulting you? So if a person insults you, do not repay evil for evil. Instead, ask God to forgive the person rather than seek revenge. Leave it to God to deal with the person according to his perfect standards of justice. So when Watchtower takes ExJWs to court and sues them for millions of dollars, I don't think that fits. I'm sorry. And when they go to court and they tell all kinds of falsehoods that got Brumley in trouble, I don't think this really works here. What about apostates? You know, are they praying for the apostates? Well, I went on to JW.org, and you don't have to go far, and you see this guy. I'm just going to play a little bit of him. Here he is. It's under this 2023 talk, Put Up a Hard Fight for the Faith excerpt. But all I did was plug in apostates, and we'll play a little bit of it here. I got it a clip right now.
First, let's talk about apostasy, and we'll call it spiritual poison. Now think about poison. What's the best way to avoid being poisoned? Well, we have to recognize poison when we see it and then avoid it. And the same principle applies to teachings that could destroy our faith. And that's not always easy. Now, not many of our brothers and sisters would deliberately get involved with apostates, but it could happen without our realizing it. We receive letters at times from brothers and sisters who are troubled by something they saw on a web page, an accusation, a rumor about the society or about the organization. And the problem is, they had no idea that apostates were behind it. It's tricky, because the apostates don't advertise, "You are now on an apostate web page." They often pose as sincere witnesses who just have questions or concerns. And some who aren't really apostates can cause just as much trouble as the apostates do by their negative talk and criticism. Brothers, we need to be on the alert. This is serious. Suppose that, out of curiosity, you get into a discussion forum with individuals who claim to be Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, maybe they are, and maybe they aren't. You don't know. You've never met them. And someone starts asking questions. What did you think of last month's broadcast? Did you really find it encouraging? Or do you think the brothers who write Watchtower articles are living in the real world? I wonder if they realize just how hard it is out here. And then a few others join in with their own negative comments. Now, you don't know whether these individuals are apostates or just brothers and sisters who are in serious spiritual trouble. But does it matter? How does it make you feel? When you leave the forum, do you feel upbuilt? Determined to expand your ministry? More convinced than ever that Jehovah has an organization that you love and that you're delighted to be a part of. You feel honored to be a part of that organization. Or does the experience leave you sad, uneasy, uncomfortable? Now, someone might say, I need to get involved in that forum so I can help those people. They shouldn't be together. Even if they aren't apostates, they're not good for one another. Staying in that forum to help someone is like holding his hand while he drinks poison and then having some yourself so he doesn't have to drink alone.
Well, we looked at the first Jehovah's Witness article. It sounded pretty reasonable. Show kindness, pray for your enemies, melt away anger with patience and forgiveness. It's a public message that anyone browsing JW.org, they'll hear that message and think, yeah, this is a good religion, quoting all the scriptures. But then once you go inside and plug in the name apostate, you don't have to go far. Right up comes this video. This is the very first video, David Splain. And he goes on to talk about people just asking questions, really gaslighting the audience into feel like you're doing something really bad if you go into these forums or go on and ask questions. And then he says staying in that forum is like holding his hand while he drinks poison and then having some yourself. So you notice the shift. The public message says, love your enemies, but inside the congregation, the instructions are clear. Avoid them, treat them as poison. Even if there's sincere questions or doubts, they're all labeled as toxic. And if you're from the news media or at school or anybody that's asking negative questions about Jehovah's Witnesses, and especially if you're the courts opposing them, you are labeled as poison. You're as good as the apostates. They kind of put you in the same bucket. So that's a no-no, asking questions in that religion. It's really going to make you look like poison. They'll pull up the David Splain talk and they'll say, here it is. This is from one of our leaders. This is why you're labeled as poison. You're going on the JW on forums and talking about this. This is how they deal with this stuff inside. But to you guys as the world, to the audience, which is it? To the outsiders, witnesses appeared merciful, forgiven. To the insiders, they're told to shun, isolate, and avoid anyone who challenges the organization, even family members. And one face for the public, another face for the inside. And if it's your children, they're poison. If you have children that are talking bad about the governing body, your children are poison. So this contradiction isn't harmless, folks. It tears families apart. Parents cut off children. Friends are silenced. The teaching of love your enemies gets rebranded into avoid your enemies when the so-called enemy is simply someone who left or asked a few questions. Well, folks, that's not love, that is control. So the Bible message is consistent. Love your enemies, pray for them, and show kindness. But Watchtower's message is love your enemies unless they challenge us. Then they're poison. And that, friends, is why this matters. Love never fails. 1 Corinthians 13 and 8. Well, folks, live your life with love. We'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.